Listen, my dear brothers, hasn't God chosen those who are poor in the eyes of the world to be rich in faith and to inherit the kingdom he promised to those who love him? But you have insulted the poor. See, at base level, a right attitude to the people who are in need around us means that we'll at least not show favouritism. I have a friend up in Wrexham. He's a manager of a building society, and sometimes he's trying to train his staff to sell products in the building society. You know, so someone comes in and they want to just put a fiver onto their building society account. And you're sitting behind the counter, and you're working in the building society, okay? And you have to say to this customer something like, "Oh, it's a while since I've seen you, and you've got a lovely suntan. You've been on holiday." And they say, "Yeah, we went to such and such." "Oh, you thinking of going there again?" Yeah, they say. And "Oh, would you need some finance to help you go on that holiday? Or we could help you with insurance, you see." So you've got to try and sell them products. And he's training his staff to do that, and the staff don't like him to do that. So he says to them, "Well, but all I'm asking you to do is talk to people." He says, "Tell me, what kind of people would you like to talk to?" Charter, you see. And they say, "Young people." And they say, "Well-dressed people." One of them said, "People who don't smell." This whole list of the kind of people they'd like to talk to. Got this list? He says that. It's very interesting. Who are you describing here? One said, "Ourselves." Ourselves. We like to relate to people, to have to do with people who are like ourselves, or who are like we would like to be. Isn't that right? Who do you want to pal up to at school or at college? Well, either people who are like you, or people who are like you'd like to be. Well, the person who doesn't dress quite so well, the person who does smell, well, getting close to them is harder, isn't it? The person who's not like you would like to be. That stuff, you see, it strikes right to the heart of what we are. It's the image thing again, isn't it? But real religion makes a difference. Because real religion has to do with someone who came from the glory of heaven, who knew majestic glory, and who came and identified with us in all of our moral things, in all of our mess, in all the mess of this world, who came from a place of perfect peace to a place of war, who came from a place where everything was clean and right to a place where so much is unjust and unclean and unright. And real Christianity has to do with being like him and reaching out to those who are in need. Now, sometimes when I talk about this kind of stuff, people get really upset. They say, "Oh, I've heard about that. Our pastors preach about that. It's called social gospel, and we've been warned off it. You know, being interested in the poor and trying to help them and all of that kind of thing. So, oh, no, the church isn't supposed to do social work, you know. We're supposed to get the gospel out." Well, I have to tell you that the history of the church doesn't quite work like that. You look at William Carey, who went out to India to get the gospel out. He found massive needs there. He found illiteracy there. He found all sorts of poverty And with Christ's heart, he couldn't turn his back either on the spiritual needs of the people or on their physical. You think of someone like Spurgeon, last century, that great preacher who was used to see many, many thousands of people come to faith during the revival, particularly, but during the whole of his ministry, 1859, I mean, he was greatly used. And we remember him as a great preacher, but we also remember him as someone who opened homes for orphans and cared for needy people. It's not either or, it's both and. Christianity in the real world will face the real world issues. What are you going to do? I know one church in Swansea that works amongst some of the down and out homeless folk and all of that. Are you prepared to think about getting stuck into that kind of thing? Who are you prepared to get alongside of at your school, at your college? Are there people there who no one wants to go near because of, well, frankly, because of their poverty when you look at it seriously? Because of how life is for them, because of how they're forced to dress, because of the way they look? Who gets alongside of them? Christianity that works in the real world will mean the real world. It's hard, isn't it? It's not easy. It's Jesus' way. I'm going to move on. If we'd had time, I would have just brought this up into group. I think, how could you use a summer in relation to something like this? How could you think about Christmas time in relation to people in need in our communities? You might like to talk, how many of you are travelling back with someone else in the car? Are you travelling back with someone else in the car tonight? How are you getting home? You're all walking, are you? How many of you are travelling with someone else who's here to go home? All right. Why don't you talk about this on the way home? What could we do? I mean, we're only young people. Can we do anything about the needs of people who are in difficulty? Well, of course you can. I mean, loads of you were doing stuff with children in need yesterday, weren't they? Can we as Christians not think, even as Christian young people, not think, what can we do? I mean, what could youth link do? There's a challenge for you. Just to think through. There are people who are deprived, and there are people who are deprived of the gospel. What can we do to bring them the greatest treasure? Last thing. Living as a Christian in the real world means keeping clear of the muck. James takes this up from chapter 3, verse 17 onwards. So we've seen the sort of heart of chapter 2 in a way, and the heart of chapter 3, and we'll see something of the heart of chapter 4. And then you'll have done most of James in a night, which isn't bad, is it? Verse 17. But the wisdom that comes from heaven is first of all pure, then peace-loving, considerate, submissive, full of mercy and good fruit, impartial and sincere, peacemakers who sow in peace raise a harvest of righteousness. What causes fights and quarrels among you? Don't they come from your desires that battle within you? You want something but you don't get it. You kill and covet but you can't have what you want. You quarrel and fight. You don't have because you don't ask God. When you ask, you don't receive because you ask with wrong motives, that you may spend what you get on your pleasures. You adulterous people! Don't you know that friendship with the world is hatred towards God? Anyone who chooses to be a friend of the world becomes an enemy of God. Living as a Christian in the real world means keeping clear of the muck. I wonder what ideas first come to mind when you think of purity and impurity. bad language, keeping pure, keeping free from bad language. Some of the stuff that's on after hours television, keeping pure means keeping some of that stuff out of your minds. Sexual purity, in action and in thinking. Well, they're all important, but you know, James goes much deeper than those things when he's talking about purity, because purity isn't just about not using foul language, not having lustful thoughts, purity isn't just keeping your wandering hands under control when you're with your boyfriend or your girlfriend. Purity is about putting God first. That's what purity is about. Putting God first. You notice, wisdom that comes from above, that comes from heaven, is first of all pure, and then he goes on, and he starts talking about fights and quarrels, and then he analyses what's going on here in this way. He says, you adulterous people. I'm married. I could be impure by committing adultery. Christian, you are married. You can be impure by committing adultery. What's he talking about? Why is he calling us adulterous people? Don't you know that friendship with the world is hatred towards God? You're a Christian, you see. You've got a relationship with God, and it's got prior call on you above everything else. And you flirt with the things of the world, and you commit adultery. That's a terrible thought, isn't it? Can you imagine someone saying, oh, you're an adulterer? James says we are when we flirt with the world. Purity is about putting God first, God before the world. There are loads of great things in this world, good things God gave us to enjoy, but purity is about God coming first. Purity is about God before your sport. And if you put God before your sport, then, for example, the issue of Sunday sport will start to fall into place. If you put God before your girlfriend, or your boyfriend, then you'll be more eager to give pleasure to God by the way you are than to give or to get temporary pleasure from each other's bodies. Understand that? God comes before your boyfriend or your girlfriend. If you put God before your possessions, then you'll take the issue of Christian giving seriously, so that not all of your Saturday earnings goes into going out places, or CDs, or clothes, or holidays, or even Christian camps. You'll think, no, I want to give into the Lord's work and be serious about that. If you put God before your ambitions, then his global mission, his intention to save people from every tribe and nation and people and language will come before the possibility of a nice, comfortable career in the UK. Now, God may call you to a nice, comfortable career in the UK. God bless you if he does. But do you see what I mean? He has a global mission. He has great purposes for the UK, for the globe. And putting God first before our ambitions will mean that we're open to go his way. Because you see, the muck isn't just in bad language and bad morals. The muck is in our ignoring God. It's in our me-first attitudes. The muck isn't just in our too tiny with someone of the other sex. Well, frankly, I have to say I'm tired of hearing about that going on amongst Christian young people. The real filth is that we two-time gods. We say we love him,